is Rory O'Toole.
And my name is Matt Schultz.
And this is How to Be,
the podcast where we discuss ancient wisdom, modern hacks, paperback self-help books, and pithy platitudes,
in the hopes of figuring out the best way to live this one precious and wild life.
Do you have something you want to get off your chest? A gripe you're dying to express? If so, join us as we discuss complaining.
Hey, Rory.
Hi, Matthew.
How's it going?
Oh, same as it ever was, isn't it always?
Same as it was, I'll be again.
Mm-hmm.
Can't complain.
I'm fine. End of list.
This is a re-record.
Mm-hmm.
We already recorded this episode. We're recording it again. I have a theory on why I think it didn't go well the first time, and it's because I made like a little blanket fort to help with the acoustics of recording. And the blanket fort was so small, it was like a dollhouse, that I had to be completely horizontal in it, lying down. So I recorded the whole thing flat. I think it made my personality flat.
Yeah, it's like you were in a morgue in one of those little drawers.
Yeah, I felt like I was in a drawer. I couldn't move left or right. It was very somewhat frightening. But now I've made this lovely new fort. It's kind of it's much more spacious. I have room to move around. I've got a little glass of wine in here.
Oh, a little dolce far niente.
It's a real she shed.
Jealous. Now you're never going to come out of there.
Yeah, it's always wine o'clock in the she shed.
It's just framed photos of shoes.
Yeah, I would love a picture of a little pump right here. Life's short, get the shoes. You know, that made me buy shoes once.
Well,
I think we talked about that in an episode once.
yeah, live, laugh, love.
Yeah, that I actually like bought. I did buy the shoes because that poster hanging in the store got them at least one sale.
I'm sure multiple. I'm sure. Yeah, well, I'm excited to re-record. I hope I bring it now today.
Yeah, we just got to bring it.
Okay, we're gonna bring it for our listeners.
Yeah. And you know what? You guys can bring it too by liking, subscribing, and telling your friends.
Yeah, share this baby, okay? Like, subscribe, and share. And we are getting our YouTube in order, actually. So that's something Matt doesn't even know.
I didn't even know that. I heard.
So you can go to YouTube now and listen to all the episodes as well. Well, the first few episodes, we're slowly uploading them to the channel. So if you prefer to listen to things that way,
I sometimes do.
there you go. Yeah. So should we get into it, my BB?
Speaking of wine o'clock, today we're talking about whining, or as the British call it, whinging.
Do they really?
Yeah, you didn't know that? But you're whinging.
No, I love it. Yes, complaining.
Complaining.
Being a big bag of complaints. So what is complaining, Matt, to you? Because
Complaining is getting home from a long day and recounting to a loved one every minor grievance, injustice that the world presented you with in the course of that day.
amen, sister.
Do
Yeah.
you have any different definitions to add?
No, I mean, I think that is exactly what I picture. It's just the end of the day unloading to anyone who will listen, and sometimes even multiple people. That's when you know you're out of control. Are you complaining about the same thing to multiple people? Am I calling my mom on the ride home, then calling a friend, and then coming home to talk to Sam, saying the same thing over and
Yeah,
over again?
doing the circuit is always a bad sign.
Yeah, you only want to do the circuit if you're signed up at Curves.
What does that mean?
You don't remember Curves, the workout class for
Oh, I do, but I don't
suburban
remember
women?
their circuit.
Oh yeah, you would go around in a little circle doing little circuits.
Oh, okay. Did you go to Curves?
Oh, my mom and I would loved Curves.
Really?
Oh yeah,
I did not know that. See?
you learned
Never
something.
stop learning.
But I'm gonna leave that joke in for our Curves fans. It didn't land with you, but maybe it'll land with someone else.
Yeah. If it reaches just one person.
Life's short, get the Curves membership.
Yeah, exactly. So you are my principal person that I complain to
Ditto.
about things. And I really enjoy complaining to you. I often write things down so I don't forget to complain about them.
Mhm.
And I often feel like there's this book by what's his name? George Perec,
Mm.
where it's just a book where he writes down his dreams.
Oh, I think you talked about this once.
Very boring, didn't read it, but bought it and read the introduction. And he says that the dreams get more interesting as it goes along because he realizes that towards the end he was dreaming. His brain started producing dreams to write about.
That is interesting. Yeah, you only need the introduction for that.
Yeah, yeah. It was very dull otherwise. So I think that sometimes I engineer my day to be complained about to you.
Well, this is the thing though, is when we're complaining, we're having a raucous good time. We're laughing at ourselves and the world.
Hmm. Yeah,
There's a lot of levity. It really actually takes the anger away from me and spins it into humor.
yeah, like, okay, today I was on the train and there was someone talking on the phone and he had such a horribly annoying, droning, loud voice.
Mm.
And everyone, first of all, I couldn't see where it was coming from. That was part of the imperial. I couldn't see where it was coming from.
Oh,
And everyone was, but I could see where people were looking. So there was a seat, I couldn't see who was in it, but people's eyes, frustrated eyes. Now, normally I'm the person who intervenes in these moments,
right, right, right.
but I didn't want to because I'm tired of
It all being
carrying
on your
things.
shoulders.
Yeah, it's like someone else do it, please. Everyone is clearly annoyed. Everyone was looking up. Even people with headphones on, that's how loud he spoke.
Ugh,
And then I got off the train, didn't say anything for the first time in my life. Get on the bus to school. He's on my bus too.
no. Can you describe him like age-wise?
He was 19.
No.
Yes, you weren't expecting that, were you?
No, I was expecting him to be hard of hearing.
No, 19, nerd, glasses, describing to an overly anxious mother every step he's going to take during the day so that she knows.
Ugh. Okay, so you're on the bus.
That's it. I had
Oh,
to
he
listen.
wasn't. He was still on the phone?
He was still on the phone.
Oh, God.
And there was this old man staring at him in utter disgust. I thought that's me someday.
Really? I don't know if you could keep your mouth shut.
I did today.
I know, but by then, you're
By
just
then, I'm
more.
going to feel so entitled by then.
Oh, of course. I survived yada and bloody and blada.
Yeah, we don't even know what I survived yet.
Yeah. The pandemic so far.
Yeah, I've actually survived a tremendous amount already. I'm very
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so the New York Times said that there's three categories of complaining: venting, problem solving, and ruminating, otherwise known as dwelling.
Mhm.
So
Oh,
venting isn't problem solving focused, but I think we can all attest that it's important to get your feelings out sometimes to an extent.
Mhm.
And I think it's important also because I feel like there have been times when I'm complaining to you about something and it's like the equivalent of journaling. Like I'm talking about it and the problem it reveals itself to me in a way.
You have
So
some
for
insight.
Yeah, so for example, I'll be complaining to you and I'll be like, "Wait, this is so insignificant. What is it about me actually that is so frustrating to me about the problem?" Like a lot of times the call is coming from inside the house.
Yeah, it can be good to hear yourself out loud.
Yeah. Or, you can vent to someone and then you totally forget about it. Like the other day I wanted to vent to you about something, but it was Shabbat. So
Mm.
I couldn't get you. You could always get me, but I can never get you on Friday and Saturday. So I had to call a different friend to vent. And guess what?
That was annoying
Next day I didn't even need to talk to you about it. I was like, "Oh, I'm over it."
because you had texted me about it. I saw the text and I said, come on, spill. You were done. Now, some people would not have been able to resist that invitation to spill.
Well, I gave you a little taste.
Yeah, but I'm saying like, oh, you did give me a little taste. But yeah, you didn't do the thing where like I know some people in my life who I may or may not be related to who they will if they have a grievance, say getting an airplane ticket refunded. Is that even something that happens?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they'll make the circuit, and if you even intimate a little bit that you want to hear about it, they will let you know. But also, do you ever, okay, so obligatory complaining where like you feel like you kind of, I get this sometimes, like I don't actually want to complain about something, but I feel like I'm being dishonest if I don't complain about it.
Like,
Like, how was your weekend? Oh, we have a mold problem in the house and we have to get a contractor to come. It's like, I don't really want to talk about it, but for some reason, I feel like it's such a big thing in my life, this mold problem that we're dealing with,
yeah.
because it's rainy right now. So the building has sprouted disgusting, horrible black plague. They feel like I have to talk about it, but I don't actually want to. Do you know what I'm talking about? You ever feel that
Yeah,
way?
of course. Well, I unfortunately suffered a couple losses in my life recently and then had to go to work and suffer this question. And it's almost like you're denying an important reality of your life.
Yeah, you just have to say it. Or like if there's something in your life that you don't feel like 100% about, like, okay, if you don't feel 100% about your job, someone's like, how's work? It's like you feel like you have to do this whole song and dance of like, it's good, but not forever, you know?
Yeah.
And you get so tired of saying it. There are some things that I get so tired of hearing myself say.
Okay, like what?
Listen to ourselves. This is not about complaining, just in general. The way we have to hear ourselves say the same things over and over again is crazy.
It's exhausting sometimes. Yeah.
And now that I'm in a relationship, the way we both have to hear each other say the same things over and over again. A new person, every time we go to a place,
Well, you can just start tuning it out.
like it's hard to tune out yourself though.
Oh, yeah. I was talking about, yeah, it's hard to tune out yourself. I've been trying to do it for 35 years.
You know what I don't like saying?
Hmm.
Where I'm like, okay, yeah, well, I lived in Israel for 8 years, and then I went back to the States to start rabbinical school, but now I'm back here, and then next year I'll go back there, and then I'll come back. It's a lot of back and forth, and then I do something like that. It's a lot of back and forth. Wow, wow, wow. You
Yeah.
know,
Anything that's like a little complicated, but ultimately trivial.
I'm getting stressed just thinking about it. I need to edit that. People don't need to know the details. I go back and forth. I'm here and there.
10 years on and off. Mostly on, but
Yeah, 10 years on and off, mostly on. There we go.
but then you might meet someone like me who's like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Someone like me who just can't let a detail like that.
You know, I actually have that experience a lot in my partnership too, where I try to tell a story shortly and more detail is requested. And I keep throwing one scant detail.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it would be easier to just unload the story right now.
Yeah. I mean, that is a whole podcast episode I want to do and get that woman on Instagram to come to do a
Social story.
storytelling.
Oh, we have so many thoughts about that. We could really pop off on storytelling. We have a lot of critiques of how people tell stories.
And how many stories are being told.
Yeah. Here's a sneak peek of that episode. 90% of stories don't need to be told.
Stop telling stories, especially in large groups.
Yeah. How long should a story be? I'm sorry, we're off topic now, but how long should a story be?
I mean, it
A
depends
minute?
on the story. I've heard some great long stories before, but
Yeah. The aristocrats. And that's the aristocrats.
how anyone could ever find that funny is lost to time.
Yeah, it's like not of our time, so we'll never know.
Yeah, like early Saturday Night Live.
It's yeah, but like dirty Bob Saget, filthy Bob Saget.
Well, yeah, but still, just lost to our time. Like what's that movie with Peter Sellers that Stanley Kubrick made? Doctor Strangelove.
Oh,
Nary a chuckle will come from my mouth watching that. Anyway,
comedy?
yeah, allegedly.
Things that are called a dark comedy.
Oh, I don't think it's even supposed to, I guess it's a dark comedy.
Like 6 Feet Under is called a dark comedy. I'm not laughing.
Well, that's like Succession or The Bear.
We started watching Succession last night.
Oh, what do you think?
We only watched 4 minutes of it, but we
Okay.
love it.
I hope you find a head that you can grab onto. There's not a lot of women in it.
Really?
No.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see if I can connect.
The other thing I think that we're sort of dancing around is complaining as a form of social bonding.
Mhm. Well,
Especially coworker in the workplace, in these, or maybe in school, like in these group settings where you don't have a lot in common besides the place that you are. Complaining about that place and the people you're around, brings a new depth to the relationship.
That's true. And definitely, okay, so our main entry point into a conversation is how are you? Right?
Yeah.
Where it all starts. It's like how every game of chess starts the same, you know? But then there's infinite varieties. But how are you has two answers, either fine or complaint. Now, that puts a lot of pressure to complain because fine is a total snooze of an answer, a complete dead end. Now, I always want to find a new way into a conversation, but then you sound like a tool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, what's on your mind? Where do you call home?
Well, one time I was at a concert and I don't know how, like I walked up to a friend who was talking to friends and that I'd never met or people we'd never met. And the girl said, "What's your passion?"
I ask people that. I'm like, what are your passions and interests? Can you believe that?
Ew. I was so taken off guard that I said it was just like that episode of Girls, but Girls hadn't come out yet, where I was like, I like reading. Like when Marnie said that.
Oh, that's funny. So I sometimes say that I'm like, what are your passions, interests? Like, how do you spend your time? I really don't like asking people, what do you do? I think
I
it's
don't think
gross.
I don't think anyone does, but it's like so uh the good thing about what do you do or how are you is an expected question that someone has an answer for versus how do you spend your time is like can catch people off guard.
Yes, and some people are like really ready for it. They're like ceramics, bird watching. And other people are completely like, and it makes them uncomfortable. So that's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. And but yeah, it's like I think that complaining can limit us to only connecting with our peers in the workplace about shared negativity. And it's like, yes, it does bond us, but it really only bonds us because it's more bonding than I'm fine, how are you? Whereas if we had some sort of other way in, like, what's on your mind?
I guess, but at the same time, it's like in the workplace, you start to realize how little in common you have with these people besides your dislikes of the place you work. It's honestly baffling because
You know
all
what?
I come across in life is like my friends and friends of friends. So there's always going to be like there's often a bridge, a common ground. But in the office, it's like we're all hired somehow. And the diverging perspectives, thoughts, feelings, interests are shocking to me.
What do you mean? Like no one is on a page about anything.
I mean, it's just that you come across people who have like such outrageously different likes and dislikes, where you're like, ugh, what's a great example? I don't know. You come across people who have like Stanley Cups.
That seems like a great place to engage.
I do engage with the Stanley Cup question. I'm like, what, you know,
Talk to
I'm
me
just,
about your
I guess you're right. I guess you're right. But it also has to do with disposition too. Like, oh, some people are so nauseatingly boring.
yeah, normies. Those
You come across a
normies.
lot of normies, but there's nothing wrong with being a normie. Let your normal flag fly. The worst kind of normie, though, is a normie who like thinks they're a weirdo. Like, I'm a weirdo.
Yeah.
I created a rap for my best friend's wedding.
Yeah, that good example. Uh, not a lot of normies in my line of work.
No, these people could normal out a little bit. Your school,
Yeah, we could
chums.
stand a little normalization.
Yeah, your school chums could be straightened out a bit. Um, anyway, what I just have to say another thing really quickly. What about when someone asks you, "How was your weekend?" and you say, or "How are you?" and you say, "Fine," and then they go, "Just fine."
I actually don't experience that a lot.
Electric chair.
Electric chair for that.
Hillary.
That's fine, not great.
Just fine?
It's
Yeah,
not-
just fine. Okay. I can't be in a state of euphoria at all times. Okay. Especially when euphoria is not on the air.
I know what happened to it.
I don't know. They're all going to be,
They're too old now.
it's going to be euphoria, the new class.
Yeah. So something that really stuck with me, Nancy Baker, my teacher in college, she was like talking about how Sarah Lawrence faculty, whenever they walk past each other, there's like a ritual where they go, "How are you?" And then the other person goes, "Wah, rolls the eyes and like says something like, ah.
Kids these days.
No, more like I'm like just complaining about being tired and overworked. Like that's the only language they speak to each other is like,
Yeah.
how are you? Blah. And I mean, I relate to that as I don't, I mean, am I overworked? I only go into school 3 days a week, but I feel overworked nonetheless. I mean, I'm working on the other days. And a lot of times when people ask me how I am, I just want to be like, oh, brother, tired.
Well, speaking of things you're sick of hearing yourself say, I'm
Hmm.
tired.
Yeah, tired of
I'm
feeling it, first of all.
tired. You know what? Our intern Joy at work asked me, "How are you?" And I said, "I'm tired." And then and I was like so sick of myself for saying that I was like, I guess
Mm.
I'm just always tired. The answer to that question for me is always just tired. Can't get untired. Like I was like yelling at myself in front of our poor intern. She was like, okay.
Wow, my fancy microphone wasn't on that whole time. Just regular mic. How long has that been the case?
Like this whole episode, probably, right?
Oh, girl, I think it might go back farther than that.
Oh, is that why it sounds so bad?
Maybe I don't even need this TP. Maybe I just need my mic on. You'll be complaining about me later. That
I
boyfriend of
mean,
yours.
now, one thing that's great about having a partner is that is that you can complain about people in your life and it doesn't feel as dirty as complaining to other friends about your other friends.
Yeah, it feels really safe.
Yeah, like I can complain about anyone to Sam.
Yeah, a partner is a box into which complaints may be poured,
Are deposited.
are deposited and sealed.
But here's the thing is like two people who are in relation, and their primary motive, their primary topics are complaining, especially about work.
It can't be the primary love language. Yeah, you know, we don't share a lot of grievances as a couple.
That's for the best.
I share my grievances.
So you don't have a beleaguered partner. He's not been beaten by the world every day.
No, no. And certainly doesn't perceive, that the world is against him in the way that I do every time I leave the house.
When did that start for you?
Feeling that the world was against me? I don't know. Maybe when I moved to New York.
Like after college?
Yeah, in college, I felt like the world was like at my back, a wind at my back,
Oh.
I think. Who knows what I actually thought? But my perception of what I thought then was that the wind was in my sails.
Uh-huh.
And now I feel like, the world is full of, obstacles, people who don't stand to the right on the escalator.
Yeah. The other day I had to go to the mall in the middle of the day to return some pants.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'll have a nice lunch by myself at this mall restaurant that's like kind of outside, you know?
The American Girl doll store?
Yeah. I'll have a nice tea with me and my doll.
Table for one adult and one doll.
So the line to get a table was long, and everyone in the line was the worst person on earth to me. And
Mm-hmm.
especially the two people in front of me, like two female friends who clearly didn't know each other very well. And one was telling the other about a vacation she took because the other one was about to go to that place. So it was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of exchanging information about neighborhoods and restaurant. Ugh. Then I sat down and I was like, I'm just gonna be here and like be present, like not look at my phone. And then
Wow.
all I was doing was overhearing miserably like conversations that made me angry for some reason. Just normal people living their life, but overhearing their conversations. Oh God. And then at the end, I was just like, I'm a terrible person. Like I have to change my perspective on the world.
Well, what is it about overhearing people's conversation that makes them sound like idiots? Like, I'm sure I do too. Like, I'm sure I have such idiotic conversations. And if someone overheard them, they'd be like, what a tool, you know?
I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I was thinking the whole time too. I was like, oh, Rory, you think your conversations are a joy to overhear?
And yet we
Totally.
have this podcast where we invite people to overhear our conversation. Everyone's just listening, thinking what tools we are week after week.
Yeah. Everyone just listens to this podcast.
Would we be okay with that? What if it like got us really famous?
What's the person that people like the Paul brothers? Jake?
Or like, do you know that podcast, the Whatever Podcast?
No.
The Whatever Podcast is this like podcast where bros talk to thoughts. and, and like everyone just sounds depraved and idiotic. And I think it's 100% hate listens. Either you listen to it because you hate the bros or you hate the thoughts or you hate both of them.
Mm-hmm. Um,
No one's listening because it's an interesting conversation.
yeah, I hate to say that I don't want people well, you know what? I can't control why people listen to this podcast. So I'm just gonna leave it up to
We hope,
surrender it to God.
yeah, we hope they're helped. We hope it helps. We hope it's a voice in the night.
Exactly.
Fall asleep to it if you like. That might be nice.
We should talk a little bit more quiet then.
Yeah.
Fall asleep if you like. Fall asleep right now.
Maybe like the last 5 minutes of every show, we'll do like a sleep corner.
Aki.
That's stressful. Stressful to have to fall asleep in 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, not for you.
No, I need to know that my audio has more time and then I'll fall asleep in 5 minutes.
Okay. So, but complaining and negativity in a relationship, not necessarily just a romantic partnership, but also like friendships, you know? Have you ever been friends with a great complainer, like the great complainers of our times?
Yeah. Do you mean like they complain in a really entertaining way or just they're always complaining?
The latter. They're always complaining.
Let me think about that for a second. I had that coworker who, years and years ago at the school who was a real Debbie Downer, but that wasn't quite complaining. That was more just Debbie Downer style, taking down the room with everything they say
Yeah, that's a good
unintentionally.
question. Is that complaining when you take down the room?
No, not necessarily. There might be some overlap. Complainers.
Okay.
No, I haven't been friends with great complainers, I don't think.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter. I was asking more rhetorically, but
Yeah, talk about it. I was just answering specifically. I was, giving it some thought.
if you're like in a dynamic where like the one person complains a lot and you're just like the listener, or I guess maybe you're both complainers, in which case you could probably stay together forever. Like, where do you draw a line? Like, where do you draw a boundary of like, I can't listen to this anymore? Because that almost feels like so callous to me.
Yeah, it's very mean to close yourself to one's complaints.
Yeah. But at the same
Um,
time, it's like you have to be a little bit more aware. Is there no awareness of your audience and you just can't help yourself?
yeah, and there's also like you kind of want to help them and be like, do you want to see the world this way all the time?
Oh, you know what
Does
though?
everything just suck?
I'm
You're
trying
trying not to change people.
I'm trying not to give advice anymore, unsolicited
Yeah.
aside. So I was
Yeah.
reading something on psychology today, and what they say, oh, if negativity becomes something you wear all the time, like a favorite sweater, your partner and your relationship could be suffering more than you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is true too. It's like, yeah, you're really making this person miserable. And then you'll be like, am I making you miserable? Are you, are you okay? It's like, if you are asking that question, but at the same time, and I'm really talking about when you're like ruminating on an issue, the royal you know, and you just have to talk about it all the time, some sort of grievance. It's like I've been there too, where it's like it feels so beyond my control speaking about it, you know? Like I'm like that episode of Sex in the City where they make her go to see Dr. G.
Well, this is similar but different. But someone near and dear to me recently went to a synagogue service and was very moved by it, shed some tears. And then we were talking about it, and he said that doesn't happen when we go together. Why? Because when we're together, we're like those old men on Sesame Street. Is that Sesame Street?
The
Or
Muppets.
the Muppets. Yeah, we're like we always have like now we're having fun when we're doing that. We're like being catty
Yeah.
and we have little comments about what everyone's up to and saying and doing. And
Mm-hmm.
we're giggling up a storm.
Mm-hmm.
But it's cynical.
Yeah.
And when we're not together, it clearly gave him the chance to connect to a different wavelength that was
Be,
cathartic.
yeah, be sincere.
Sincerity.
Yeah.
How about that? So that I almost feel like that's not what they were talking about in the psychology today, but it's kind of the same thing also.
Right.
It's like, when Daria and Jane had that falling out in Daria because Jane didn't want to always be negative,
Mm-hmm.
even though they had a lot of fun being negative together for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in psychology today, they say that once you've been heard and your feelings understood, asserting your misery over and over is an act of senseless violence against your partner's well being.
I don't know about if I would use the V word.
Active violence, calling things an act of violence has become quite popular lately.
Everything is violence. I don't approve.
And it's like, it's such a privilege to call complaining an act of violence when we don't have people in the pillory in the town square, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk to me after you've been pelted with stones.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we're also quick to discredit sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Like it's like you're not supposed to say that anymore. But on the other hand, none of us have been beaten with sticks and stones. So what do we know? Like I'm sure whoever wrote that had been like whacked with a branch. So he knew, and he had been called a loser queer.
And he'd
So
rather be called a loser queer than beaten while being called a loser queer.
yeah, he was like, sign me up.
But they did do there. I so when I was like doing my little research on this, there was a study that everyone kept quoting from like the 90s from Stanford that showed that negativity shrinks your hippocampus and that like ruins your brain chemistry or something. And I mean, there are times when like I've gone through like it's more like blocks of time, like long periods of like misery and negativity for XYZ external or internal reasons.
Hmm.
And it's like your brain is covered in like a veil of
Yeah.
only seeing the world through pure hostility.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, yeah, definitely, social media has the ability to skew our perception of the world to being a horrible place,
Mm-hmm.
which can make us exasperated and lead to more complaining and more negativity.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's a film on the brain. Whereas, yeah, having a positive outlook feels very clean and open. But as we saw with the rice experiment, none of it actually matters. My rice didn't rot from negativity, nor was it, I mean, it has been preserved from love, perhaps, but the hate rice has also been preserved. Maybe I should just complain to the rice every day.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm going to start doing that. I'll do that for a couple of weeks. I'll be like, oh, brother, you would not believe it. I left. It was way colder than the weather report said. And then the bus was 4 minutes late. But up on the board, it said, arriving now, arriving now. That rice will wilt and wither.
Why even have a board, Matt?
Why even have a board?
The false hope is worse. I could go on and on about public transit timing. Okay. Another thing that I found various sources quoted that the average person complains 15 to 30 times a day, but I could not find any original source on that. But what do you think about that number? I actually think it might be more, but what is a complaint?
I think a complaint starts with, oh, brother. I think the second you've rolled your eyes or groaned or been like, blah, it's
But
already a
is a
complaint.
complaint and can it be internal or does it have to be expressed?
I think it has to be expressed.
Oh, okay. So you can just be like the most negative person in your head, but if you never mention it out loud, you're not a complainer.
Yeah, well, when people say can't complain, does that mean they're not having any negative thoughts? Or does that mean they're making a choice not to complain?
Won't complain.
Won't complain.
I won't do it.
Yeah, it's like, come on, out with it. So, yeah, I
What?
definitely think, okay, in my first class today, I probably complained 20 times.
Two people.
Yeah, it was just like two people. We were talking about our school's administration.
Hmm.
We were talking about the weather,
Hmm.
all sorts of things. So, that was probably my heaviest section of the day until now. But yeah, I think probably got up to 50.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's so interesting because it's like, I guess you feel like things, like you were saying, you think that the world has wronged you. Do I feel that way? I don't think I feel that way very often.
No, no. Your complaints are of a different nature.
How would you describe them?
Exasperated by that. You can decide to leave that in or not. Just let everyone guess. Is it me? Is it me?
Here's the thing is I just do not think that people need to learn how to complain well. And complaining well involves having a sense of humor about your relationship to the complaint. Like when you're complaining about people on the bus, a big part of you thinks that they are wrong, but another part of you recognizes your part in it and thinks that that's funny and we can have a laugh. And that's the whole point of life is having a laugh, right?
Absolutely.
Home every day outraged by something that happened at work that almost you and you're like all upset and like your adrenaline's running or you're teary-eyed. It's like you gotta get some distance. You gotta get some distance.
You got to get a grip.
You have to get some distance because there is no world in which there aren't 100 irritants every second of every day, especially if you work in any normal job or go to school like you. It's all it is irritating people.
Yeah,
Things.
you thought it was going to be easy on the North Sea? You thought those coworkers, ex-cons?
I bet they do such little complaining about each other because they have the sea to complain about.
Yeah, the sea is a great shared enemy. What about this is, I mean, just a little side topic, kind of, but what about like complaining to a manager? Complaining
Oh my
about the
God.
service you got or a product you got or calling
Official
customer
complaints.
service. Official complaints. We haven't talked at all about official complaints, lodging a complaint.
Well, I read an article in New York Magazine about complaining, and it's called, and maybe I'll post it to the Instagram. It's called How Happy People Complain. They say that when you're complaining about something, you should create, like in an official capacity, you should create a complaint sandwich. Okay, so say you got the wrong food, you didn't order this.
Mm-hmm.
You need an ear opener, a complaint, and a digestive. I don't know what that means. But you say, "Oh my gosh, this salmon or this plate looks delicious, but I ordered the salmon. I really have
Mm-hmm.
my heart set on the salmon. So if there's a way I could swap this, I would really appreciate it."
And by the way, nice body, tight.
That's kind of
Cute.
annoying to me, though. I'm already annoyed thinking about
Yeah.
that because why do you have to be so nice about getting the wrong food?
Yeah. So I think a simple, excuse me, I ordered the salmon.
And then they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And you're like, "No worries, it's fine."
That's great. That's perfect.
Like they don't need to die because they gave you the wrong food, okay?
Yeah. You don't have to be pissed about it, but just be direct.
Complaining to a manager, though. Oh, sorry. You're talking about complaining to a store manager. I thought you were talking about complaining to your supervisor at work.
No, no. Like,
To which I
yeah.
was going to say, never do that.
Yeah. Were you helped by someone today? Yes, that girl over there, and she was very rude.
Would you do that?
No.
Me neither.
Okay, something I'm really, really strict about is not threatening someone's employment ever. Now, I think that it's generally a good idea to not get someone's job in trouble. The only place where I feel a little conflicted about it is with Ubers.
Okay.
Because if someone's a dangerous driver or a creep,
Oh, that's a different thing. If they're creepy, that's like a safety issue.
exactly, it's a safety issue for the next person.
Yeah. Safety issues are a whole other ball game, but yeah, threatening someone's employment, it's also just like, how much do I expect them to care about their stupid retail job?
Yeah.
I don't expect them to care about their retail job. I don't really expect them to care about their food service job.
Okay, like the other day, I saw a bus and a bike on the street screaming at each other. The bus driver leaning out the window, screaming at the bike. They had some sort of near miss. I did not see it, so I'm in no place to say who was in the right. Safe to say that probably, it's more the bus's responsibility not to hit the bike. And the bus driver was screaming in a way that was truly inappropriate. And
Mhm.
then the biker took a picture of his license plate number and started dialing the number while they were still having the altercation
Mhm.
and was like filming him. And it's like, yeah, he's acting so inappropriately, he's screaming obscenities. Like he shouldn't be a bus driver. But at the same time, how can you make that call? It's like playing God.
I know, it's really difficult. I hope I never am in a situation like that. Now, Matt, do you have your last name spelled wrong on this Zoom? On your Zoom
Ma-
name?
Yeah, Matthew Skults, my alter ego.
Wow, look at me calling you out for spelling something wrong.
Matthew
Oh, the
Skults.
turntables have turned.
How do you rename Matthew Skults becomes Matthew Schultz just like that?
And just
There we
like
go.
that, I was back to being Matthew Schultz.
Oh, so strange, but so good. Do you know we got a record player?
Okay, where did that come from? That thought.
Because I was thinking that we listen to records now like Carrie Big
Oh, cute.
right before he died.
Yeah, that wears off pretty quickly, but
What?
the novelty of the record player.
I I enjoy it. I find it's an easier way for me to listen to. I'm very scared of listening to songs I haven't heard.
I see. So what
So, you know,
records do you have?
well, Yoav had a whole little collection that he brought. So last night we listened to a Janet Jackson album.
Okay, so they're like pop hits mostly, or
I would say they're mostly pop hits. There's some musical theater in there. I want to get some classical because, as you know, I'm trying to become a classical music gay. Maybe a
oh,
little jazz.
jazz or classical music, because those aren't the same.
Both.
Oh, you can't. You're trying to be both. And a musical theater gay? You want to be a musical theater gay, a jazz gay, and a classical music gay?
Well, do you know that I already like jazz?
And you're already a Sex in the
So
City
that's
gay and a Gilmore Girls
accomplished.
gay?
One can be many gays.
Okay, wait. You like jazz?
Yeah,
Not possible. Name a jazz person.
I like Israeli jazz. I especially like the work of Avishai Cohen, especially his album with the Avishai Cohen trio. But his solo work, I also enjoy.
Okay, Israeli jazz. Got it.
Yeah.
I believe that. That I believe.
We found it.
I
We
don't believe
found
you're listening to Wynton Marsalis or
Kenny G.
Art Pepper.
I don't even know who Art Pepper is.
You will one day if you go deep enough into it.
We'll see
Okay.
about that.
What's the highest level you've ever taken a complaint? How far have you gone? Oh, I know. Well, this is the thing. This is like, remember when you were being bamboozled by Orange?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Indeed.
Tell the people.
I actually just did like a little reading event at the Tel Aviv Museum where I told that story.
Right.
It'll be on my Instagram soon, but in Hebrew. So if you speak Hebrew, listen.
Okay, but well, why don't you tell it here?
Well, oh, you're right. Just listen now. Well, I was talking about the thing I did at the Tel Aviv Museum was about how did I learn Hebrew? A big part of learning Hebrew was the fact that my first year in Israel, my phone company here stole like more than $1,000 from me.
And they were called
Like
Orange,
they were
right?
called Orange. Yeah. They're a French company. They're actually very anti-Semitic. The owner.
Mm-hmm.
And they stole money from me. Like they called me up one day. See, now I have to do the whole story. They called me up one day and they said, "We want to switch you to a new plan. It's cheaper than the one you're on now." I said, "Okay, that sounds fine, but does it have unlimited international calling like my current plan? Because I call my friend Rory a lot." And she said, "Oh yeah." And I said, "Are you sure? Because that's really the only thing that matters to me." And she said, "Oh, yeah, sure." So it did not. So there I am racking up these insane charges, blathering to Rory, complaining about absolute worthless minutia for the price of $8 a minute or something. And then I get my phone bill and it's like $1,600.
Mm-hmm.
So I call them to complain about it naturally, but they don't just give you back your money. You have to call and call and call and say, I am a member of the media. I will bring a vast and mighty press blitz down upon your company's head. I am intimately plugged into the immigrant community here in Israel, and I'll make sure that no English speaker in Israel ever uses your company ever again, because everyone obviously does what I say. And I would post these long diatribes on Facebook and tag them. By the way, if you need to like get a company's attention, this is a proven way to do it. You post and you tag them. They respond. They listen. They're scared. I'd be like, Orange, stall from me, all caps. $1,600. I live on a fixed income. Months of my life. I almost had to quit my job because this was my job. This was my passion. And it was kind of like Ricky Ricardo vibes, where like I realized that like my Hebrew, well, I guess Ricky Ricardo spoke his mother tongue when he was upset. But for some reason, for me, this new language of Hebrew became more fluent when I was in a rage. I was kind of not Ricky Ricardo, more like the Hulk, it unleashed. And, I was triumphant in the end. I got that money back.
But it took a lot out of this company, evil company. Now that was a good story, Matt. You had me laughing.
Thank you. I thought I did a good job with it. And
Yeah.
that was a story where it paid to be lengthy about it.
Well, sometimes that's what we've learned from workshopping stories together that we tell out in the public. You can't have too scant detail. It's about finding that right balance.
Yes, yes. Sometimes you don't serve yourself. But yeah, it was long. I did it long, but it wasn't a lot of needless detail.
No,
Poked fun at myself.
that's good.
I hope everyone's taking notes on that storytelling technique.
Yeah, so that was a righteous complaint. One time Sam and I were trying, like, we sent a router back and it got lost in the mail, and we were like tag teaming the customer service phone call. I would be like, okay, I can't talk right now. I have to hand you to my husband. And then he would talk.
Oh.
And then he'd be like, okay, you know what? I have to give you back to my wife. And then that way we didn't fatigue ourselves fully,
Mm-hmm.
like he would be gaining strength to take
Yeah,
over a shift while I was on the phone and vice versa.
he'd crack open a Gatorade, get those
Yeah.
electrolytes
And
back
then
flowing.
I on my off shift, I'd go in a dark room, put a washcloth over my head, and then
Yeah,
emerge 40 minutes later. And I remember
snort a little cocaine.
yeah, I remember, of course, it was escalated a couple times at this point. I remember the sigh of the manager who finally decided to give our refund. He was like, okay.
I wonder what it's like for them. Do you think it's like they get like 30 refunds a day to give and they're really trying to like
I would love to interview a former Comcast, Spectrum, Con Ed, whatever, like one of these really big companies with
yeah,
notoriously frustrating customer service experiences. If
yeah.
anyone's out there who worked in customer service, and especially at a managerial level, or knows
Hmm.
someone, I would love to do a little mini episode with them.
Yeah, that would be fascinating because yeah, you're speaking to, oh my God, when I get good customer service on the phone, I like gas them up so hard.
Yeah, they need
Like,
it.
thank you so much. You really helped me. Like it was nothing. You just solved that problem just like that. And they're
Yeah.
like, all right, thank you.
They need it. It's hard because it's like they are not any sort of decision maker, but they're all the only person you can express your frustrations to.
Yeah, we have a sick relationship with them.
Yeah, it's fucked up. It's like I want to be yelling at the COO,
Yeah.
but I only have you $15 employee on the line.
Well, I remember when Bank of America. Okay, so here's another story. I had a Bank of America account that I never used, really. I would have like $20 in it, $100 in it, really just nothing, and it would just sit there. And then they changed the rule and they made it so that you get a fine every month that you don't deposit a certain amount of money in. Do you
Sick.
hear that?
That is
You
so
get
sick
fined
for
for
being
not
poor.
having money come into your account. Now, what happens if it goes past zero? $35 a day.
A day?
A day.
But this is the thing is like,
Overdraft.
well, if you never use the account, they'll never be able to collect from you, I guess.
I mean, I guess that's true, but I called them in a drunken stupor.
Really?
Yeah, I was out at a bar when I got the email about the policy change. And I was like, I am closing out my account. And she was like, you have $17 in your account currently. Like, do you want it as a check? And I was like, yeah, I do. And she was so nice. Bank of America is such an evil company.
Yeah.
And they really have one of the best customer service teams in the world. I really think so. So I was so upset, but like she really appeased me and she was so sweet and understanding. It was kind of crazy, you know?
That's an interesting psychological game Bank of America is playing.
Yeah, if they could only just invest in having good policies instead.
It's like a 1-2 punch. Okay, Matt, anything else to add?
That was less good, my second story. Didn't have you rolling with the laughs as hard.
Well, it was very brief. I think you were just trying to make a point.
Yeah, it was just more for the point, sure. Okay, anyways, I think we complain enough and we should try to do it less.
Yeah, I agree. We do complain too much and we should try and do it less, especially to our significant people we live with.
When someone asks you how you are next, why don't you tell them something that's on your mind? Um, like how does a prism work? Or
Don't do that. That is childish.
it doesn't have to be how a prism works. It can be, you know, something about,
Well,
something
how
grown
about
up like the Electoral College.
how about how about you respond to how are you with I saw a what do we call them? Group of starlings. What do you call
A
them?
murmuration of
A
starlings.
murmuration of starlings this weekend.
You're right, which I did, and an owl.
I saw an owl this weekend. I would love to
Would you
hear
believe
someone say
that?
that to me
Yeah.
if I ask the question, how are you? Find you can find a creative way to answer that.
Cut to 3,000 years ago, people are like, how when someone asks you how you are and you say, I saw an owl, like, where does that come from? It just, get it? Like, it just becomes like expression.
Oh, 3,000 years from now. Now.
Yeah, like I start saying it and people are like, wow, that's a great way to answer this question. They start saying it whether or not they've seen an owl. And then eventually it just becomes like a way of saying, I'm fine. Saw an owl.
Saw an owl. Saw an owl.
Saw now. Yeah, saw now. They don't even know it's like about a bird anymore.
Yeah, complain less, but don't complain not at all because complaining is a form of bonding and it can give you a chuckle, but bring some levity into your complaints,
Yeah.
please.
Don't be
You
too
only
bitter.
get one thing to really get past. One passionate complaint a week, let's say.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right, Matt. Well, I always like kvetching with you.
Always like fetching with you too.
Ta-ta.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.